Hello and welcome to Bari Aftercare. I am Dr. Connie Stapleton and I've worked in the field of bariatric medicine for goodness almost 20 years now. So I've had some experience in this field. Don't know everything, but I've listened to a lot of patients. So trust me when I say all I'm doing is sharing with you what I have heard from them and a little bit of stuff I've learned myself along the journey. All right, so we're going to continue with this series, and to me, this is a critical series for you guys. It's on communication skills, and today we're taking a deep dive into aggressive communication. And check this out. You're going to want to listen to this. Overeating is often thought as an outright aggressive behavior aimed at yourself. And for most people, the aggression part of this is because when I overeat intentionally, there are some people, and I believe this in many circumstances, not all, but I believe that in many circumstances, when a person engages in overeating, it's aggressive behavior because they're punishing themselves or they're punishing somebody else. What? How does that even make sense? You can sort of understand how you're punishing yourself because when you overeat, what do? You get remorse, you get guilt, you feel like crap, you can say things bad about yourself. Not a good plan for sure, especially when it comes to weight loss. But it is aggressive towards yourself. Your behavior is aggressive because you're harming yourself when you overeat, especially if you're a post-op or your goal is to lose some weight and you're doing exactly the opposite. So you're being aggressive, you're harming yourself, you're being negative towards yourself. So it's a form of aggressive behavior. Remember, aggressive communication. Not all communication is verbal. So aggressively eating or overeating to the point where you're painfully full, or simply eating a lot of foods that you're not gonna you're I'm gonna say not supposed to eat, okay? I know that's bad language, but if you want to lose weight or if you want to maintain a healthy weight, there are some foods you don't want to overeat if those are your goals. Doesn't mean never eat them. I'm not saying you can't ever eat anything you want. You can. But if you choose to overeat to the point where you're in pain or to the point where you are beating yourself up over it, or you're gaining weight because of it, that's an act of aggression towards yourself. And I absolutely believe that. We'll talk more about it. But let's talk for just a minute about how this behavior can be considered to be punishing someone else. And I will tell you exactly how I know this from personal experience. As you know, I've been in recovery for over 30 years, recovery from various addictions: food, alcohol, prescription pain medication, work. I don't know if I'm in recovery from that one yet, but anyway, working toward it. When I have in the past had big fights with my husband, and I specifically remember this mostly from this period of time when we lived in this small log cabin. So I know it's been, how long ago? We lived there for 10 years, and it's been at least 8 years since we lived there, I'm guessing. So I remember thinking so many times, because when I would get really ticked off with him, I would go down to the basement, the lower floor. It was a finished basement, just to take my space, get away from him, so I didn't make things worse, which I often did anyway. But some of my thoughts, my revenge fantasies, right? It's like, I'll get even with him. I'll show him. Oh, I'll get him. I'll smoke a cigarette. Well, my husband absolutely detests cigarette smoking. Yes, he's a former smoker, but he quit before I met him, I think, which was 40 years ago. I too am a former smoker, but I quit probably 30 years ago. So I remember thinking, I'll show him, by golly, I'll smoke a cigarette. That would be a form of aggressive behavior toward myself and him, right? because my motive, it's actually passive aggressive behavior is what it is, but it's also aggressive because I'm trying to show him, right? He'll get really mad and he'll be really hurt and he'll, all crap, all crap. And then I think, nope, I don't even like smoking. I didn't even like it when I smoked. I don't want to do that to myself. Okay, well, I'll just open a beer. Of course, we had none in our house. So I'd have to go somewhere and get it. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I've got 20 years of recovery under my belt. I don't want to ruin that. But I'd go through all these little scenarios in my head of these passive aggressive things I do, which some people call aggressive. But they would also be aggressive toward myself because I would be harming myself. So that's a way that behavior can be aggressive, an aggressive form of communication. I'll show you. It's really passive aggressive, but it's aggressive against myself. So let's talk more about this aggressive communication thing. And I hate to tell you, but this was my mode. This was how I protected myself in a very unhealthy way, kind of like some people protect themselves from emotions by overeating or consuming alcohol. This was another way that I kept myself from having people point out my flaws. Because if I could be aggressive enough and come across strongly enough, they would back off. I would keep people away from me. And sadly, most often this played out with my husband and my siblings. So, and that makes sense. We usually play out our worst behaviors with those persons that we have the closest emotional bonds with. It's kind of like the reason we treat people in our homes sometimes worse than we do perfect strangers. And that saddens me. Not that I wish we would treat perfect strangers poorly, but it saddens me that the people we love the most, we take out most of our frustrations on, or we use our ugliest behaviors on. And I understand we're human, and once in a while that's going to happen, and that's fine. We're talking about patterns, patterns of behavior. If we have patterns of aggressive behavior, patterns of passive aggressive or aggressive or passive, or we want assertive communication. We all want to strive toward assertive communication. And even if we get really good at being assertive communicators, when we're with the people we have the biggest emotional histories with, sometimes our buttons get poked and our greatest desires for communicating in a healthy way go out the window. But that's okay if it's from time to time and if you go back and apologize and rectify the situation. All right, so today we're going to talk about a couple of things, the hallmarks of aggressive communication and other ways that aggressive communication can affect your weight loss journey. We just talked about one because it can be an aggressive behavior towards yourself. And then we're going to talk about turning aggressive communication into that coveted assertive communication that we want to have, because assertive communication, as we've talked about a lot, is respectful. It's very direct, it's calm, it's I'm sharing my thoughts, I'm sharing my ideas, I'm sharing my feelings. And I'm doing it in a respectful way with pleasant eye contact, not an aggressive, ugly look on my face, with a reasonable tone of voice. And I'm respecting what you have to say in return. I'm listening. I'm going to hear your points of view. I'm going to acknowledge them. And I'm going to say, I agree with that. Or I'm wondering if this option might work out better. But it's going to be very, very respectful of myself and of you. Not so with aggressive communication. Aggressive people are not going to be respectful toward the other person in the conversation. And it's tragic and uncool and unkind and really, really unhealthy. So an aggressive person is not hard to mistake, right? An aggressive communicator, you're going to hear it in the vocal tone. I have a very aggressive vocal tone, even when I'm trying to be calm, or even when I mean, even now, my tone is somewhat aggressive. And to me, that's my normal way of talking. So if I'm going to be in any kind of situation where I really want to be heard or show respect, I've really got to take it down a notch. And I've got to use as calm a voice as I can muster. And the volume, I have a very high volume. So by nature, I can say it's by nature. I don't know if that's true because I grew up with all aggressive communicators in my household and I've toned it down a lot. But I know I still have it because I listen to my daughters. They kind of have it too. Surprise, surprise. But not because they're being mean or aggressive. It's just that's what they learned in terms of vocal tone and intensity and volume. So we're always notching it down a little bit. The other way you'll know aggressive communication are the kinds of words that people use. They're controlling. You need to do this, and I need you to do that, and why aren't you doing this? It's like demanding, right? I'm very, very controlling, and I'm blaming. If you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done that. That's blaming, and it's very aggressive, maybe threatening. If you don't do this, you're going to be sorry. You better watch out. So uncool, right? It's very, very intimidating and threatening. Critical. You dish out, harsh words. You can't take them back. You cannot take those words back. And I learned this, I swear, from the best. Unfortunately, my mother had a vicious tongue when she wanted to. And I have to work not to employ my tongue in a vicious manner. Nonverbal signs of aggression. It's not just eye contact, which is healthy and good. It's intimidating eye contact. It might be staring or glaring. Again, I promise you, I learned from the best. I remember saying to a coworker one time who was really ticked at me, really ticked at me. I had confronted this person about their excessive use of alcohol. Um, and it concerned me because of the job and because of the population that we worked with. And this person came at me, not physically, but let me tell you, with the glare, the stare, the anger, the tone, the aggressive communication. And I was very calm. And I remember saying to this person, listen, you can give me the ugliest looks that you want to, because nobody can look at me more cruelly than my mother did. So bring it on. It's not affecting me. So I was letting her know your aggressive, nonverbal communication is not affecting me in the way I think you're used to it affecting people, because we use aggression to back people off. She didn't want to hear what I was saying, so she's going to back me off. At times when my husband would be giving me feedback about my own behavior that I needed to hear and I didn't want to hear it, I would use aggressive behavior and back him off. Communication, not physical. All right. So aggressive communication is ugly, right? There's usually tension. Um, you can feel the tension. You can see it in a person's face, in their muscle tone. They're tight. They're drawn up. And the message is, I don't care about you. I care about me here. And right now, I don't want you to poke any buttons. I don't want you to push my buttons. I don't want you to point out my healthy behavior. I don't want you pointing out what I'm doing wrong. So I'm going to be aggressive and mean and back you off. It's a protection in some cases. In other cases, the purpose of it is to feel like you're in control or try to gain control, right? Or maybe I want to instill fear in you so that you're afraid of me, so you don't confront me, you don't tell me anything negative about myself. I probably need to hear it in the moment, but I'm being aggressive, so you'll stay away. So I might instill fear. I might want you to feel like I'm in control. I want to give the sense that I'm in control. Maybe the aggressive communicator is hungry for power. Guess where that comes from? It comes from feeling like you don't have any. I'll talk more about that. And like I said, a lot of people learn it. Just like any other communication style, you learn it by what you saw as a kid. Check this out. A lot of people who struggle with addiction engage in aggressive behavior. And part of it is, believe it or not, brain chemistry related. So when you struggle with addiction, you're looking for dopamine rushes, right? You're looking for this feel good chemical reaction in your brain. And when you engage in aggressive behavior, your brain is going to release dopamine. So it's kind of a rush. It's kind of a fix for addicts. Doesn't mean it's healthy, doesn't mean you can't overcome it and learn to not behave in that way. And guess what? Those aggressive communicators like myself, one of the main reasons we behave this way is I want what I want when I want it. It's to get my way. It's to be a bully and get my way. And that is real unhealthy as an adult. Kids do it all the time. Not healthy either. But as an adult, if I'm engaging in that kind of behavior in my relationship, what the heck's it going to do to my relationship? I promise you, from personal experience, it doesn't do anything good. And I'll tell you what, just like so many of the other communication styles, some we've talked about and some we have yet to talk about, but passive, right? It signals insecurity. Passive aggressive also signals insecurity. We haven't talked about that yet, but aggressive behavior absolutely signals insecurity. I don't feel confident enough in simply saying, this is what I think. This is what I would like. I feel this way. I think this way. I'm observing that. I don't feel confident enough. I don't trust myself. I don't value myself. And so, out of my insecurity and my fear, maybe it's my fear of being bulldozed. Maybe it's my fear of being ignored. Maybe it's my fear of not being taken seriously. Maybe it's a fear, who knows what? There's probably a long list. But if I come in like a lion, you're not going to ignore me, at least not in the moment, right? You may not take anything I say seriously, which wouldn't be an unwise decision on your part. But aggression often comes from insecurity. All right. So, how does this affect your weight loss journey? Well, when we talked about overeating in an aggressive way towards yourself as punishment, then that's really going to get in your way, right? It's going to get in your way in terms of losing weight or maintaining weight losses. If you do that too often, you're going to regain. So, what does it mean when I say overeating is punishment? People sometimes don't understand that when I talk about that. Most of the time, people understand when we say you're an emotional eater. When you're upset, you eat to calm yourself. If you're frustrated, if you're sad, if you're lonely, you eat for comfort. People understand that. On the other side of that comfort coin, so let's say we have a coin, and on this side we eat for comfort. Oh, yes, 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 I get that. I eat for comfort. On this side, even if we eat for comfort, we are punishing ourselves. Because if our goal is to lose weight, maintain a healthy weight, and we do something that is contrary to that goal or moves us away from that goal, then I think it's pretty reasonable to say I've just punished myself. I've moved myself away from something I really, really want. Or the language we start using on ourselves when we turn to food, whether it's for comfort or whatever, then we beat ourselves up. And that's punishing without question. When we start beating ourselves up for something we've done, and we get involved in that negative self-talk, and we are, in effect, hitting ourselves in the head with a hammer. Oh, God, why did I do that for? I'm so stupid. I'll never learn, blah, 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 blah. That's punishing yourself. So overeating is a form of self-punishment and a non-verbal form of aggressive communication. So I think it would be wise for you to kind of sit with that one and think about it for the next couple days. Maybe bring it up as a topic in a support group, or if you're in therapy, to talk to your therapist about it. All right. Also, when we have strong feelings, whatever it is, you know that if you have strong emotions, it can absolutely be connected with eating behaviors. So a lot of times, strong emotions like anger or fear will affect you and your relationship with food. Now, some people go to food to get that comfort and end up punishing themselves with their words and the extra weight. Some people completely stay away from food when they're having strong emotions. But if you're one of the former, then learning to deal with strong emotions in a healthier way is going to absolutely help you stay away from the aggression towards yourself, whether it's through the food itself or the comments you go to after you've eaten the food. So it's really definitely going to affect your weight loss journey. Another thing about aggressive behavior, aggressive communication. When you engage in that behavior, when I engage in that behavior, I feel like crap. Honestly, I feel miserable about myself because that is not who I want to be. The man I usually take it out on is my husband, and he does not deserve that. And I don't want to be the one hurting him like that. For a long time, it didn't matter because my protection was more important. Unhealthy coping skill nonetheless. But as I went through therapy and learned more and more about how aggressive communication negatively affects me and hurts him and my children, I thought that's not how I want to treat my family. I love them. They deserve better from me. And I am capable of learning better, not just knowing better. And some people are like, when you know better, you do better. Not always, as evidenced by the fact that most people who regain weight know better than to eat the way they have been. There's something else going on there, right? So knowing better isn't always doing better, but knowing by learning and then applying what you've learned, that will lead to better, right? Better way I feel about myself, better treatment toward others, that will improve our communication. So when I, and at those times I still do, which doesn't happen very often, thank the Lord, because I did not like who I was. And maybe this is a selfish perspective, but it's helped. All right. It's a perspective, not the only one in my journey, but I would feel so badly about myself when I would engage in this aggressive behavior, especially the more I learned about it and the more I learned about how it tears people apart and destroys relationships and destroys your self-worth, that leads to unhealthy behaviors. That whole pattern, I didn't want to have anything more to do with it. So as I learned, when I engaged in that unhealthy aggressive communication, I would feel so badly about myself that it now, knowing that I'm going to feel so badly about myself, helps prevent me from engaging in that behavior because I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling upset with myself. I don't need that anymore. As I've learned to like myself and appreciate myself and come to grips with my past behavior, all the good, the bad, the ugly, and said, I can't live there anymore. I have to do today and be today the kind of person that I want to be. I don't want to feel bad about myself anymore. And I know if I refrain from being aggressive, I won't feel that way, at least in this example. So there you go. I don't want to set myself back. I don't want to feel bad about myself. So if you don't want to set yourself back in your weight loss journey and in how you feel about yourself, which may lead to overeating again, think about how you want to communicate with others. And any other form of communication than assertive communication, direct, straightforward, respectful, is going to lead to some sort of relapse in your eating. I can almost guarantee it. All right, so what do you do? What do you do? You want to change this aggressive behavior. But first I want to talk about a specific form of aggressive behavior. And we talked about it already in relation to if you overeat, it's a form of aggression. The negative self-talk is such aggressive communication. And I would venture to guess that many of you, if not most of you, participate in aggressive communication toward yourself more than you do any other person. This is still aggressive communication. And I hope you will look at this because if you're communicating with yourself in an aggressive manner, you are behaving just like the bullies, just like the judgmental people out there who judge you. You don't like that. And I don't blame you. None of us want to be judged. And many people, especially if you struggled with the disease of obesity and carried around extra weight on your body know what it feels like to be judged from outside, and it's no fun. Then my question becomes, why in the world, what would possess you to do the same thing to yourself through aggressive, negative self-talk? Now, there's another question to ponder. Take to group, take to your therapist. This is one of the most important things you can do to stay on track with your weight loss and maintain a healthy weight loss, is give up the aggressive communication toward self. Negative self-talk equals aggressive talk toward self. So why is that important? Pretty easy, right? So if you're beating yourself up about something, oh my God, why did I think I could do that? Oh, I'm so lazy. Oh, I'm just the worst. Oh, no wonder nobody wants to hang out with me. Oh my God, I look in the mirror and I just am. I'm disgusted. This is all toward yourself, right? If somebody else talked to you that way, all of your friends would say, get away from that person. They are just belittling and critical and negative. You don't need that in your life. So get away from that part of yourself because you don't need that in your life. And I promise you, it's leading you to emotional eating. It's leading you to behaving badly toward yourself. It is not leading to anything good. And I think we could all agree to that. That engaging in negative self-talk, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm lazy, I'm worthless, this is not coming from those people out there that we like to get mad at. For good reason. Get mad at them. You shouldn't be mad at them. But then don't turn around and do the same thing yourself because that's called a hypocrite. And we don't want to be a hypocrite because then we're going to beat ourselves on the head again with that hammer anymore. It's a very, very vicious cycle. So and I start most of my talks to patient groups this way. If I could give you a gift, it would be the gift of compassionate, kind, constructive, assertive self-talk. It would be to take away the absolutely brutal negative self-talk that most people engage in. Now, there's a lot of research that shows without any doubt that our mindset is very connected with our weight. Our mindset. What is your mindset when you're beating yourself up with aggressive communication towards self? It's negative. A negative mindset isn't positively correlated with weight loss. A negative mindset often leads to weight regain, often prevents you from losing weight. So we're defeating our goals if we're going to go to all these measures to lose weight and then beat ourselves up half the day or more, right? Having a negative mindset in this arena of weight loss keeps us in a vicious cycle. And that results in an inability to lose weight or an inability to maintain weight loss. And if you're willing to be honest in your heart of hearts, in your heart of hearts, you know you do this and you know that it interferes with your positive goals. It can't do that. It's like your engine is moving negatively, but you want your body to move positively, and it cannot happen. The force of that self-talk, I don't know, and I don't care where it came from and how long it's been going on by other people. When you're doing it to yourself, it's going to lead you in a direction you do not want to go in. It's going to lead you in a direction of weight gain. It's going to prevent you from losing weight. So if you mess up, in quotes, and eat something you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have eaten that, forget it. Say, I ate it. I can do better than that, and move on, right? Just Say, I did eat that cookie. I'm going to stay away from a second one. And I'm going to pick up with my life and move on. Your head and your brain, the mind body thing is so, so, so connected. And it's essential to your health, overall health, not just weight health, mental health, physical health, digestive health, heart health, autoimmune health, that we are kind and positive to ourselves. You might want to set some boundaries for yourself that say, I will only allow, you can be, you need to be accountable. That wasn't my wisest decision. I can do better than that. I move forward instead of, going through the boom, 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 pound yourself into the ground. So you really need to honor and respect the fact that just like if you're in a negative situation or abusive situation, eventually you start to believe the things you're being told. Well, who's telling you these things now? You are. That is something you can change. You have to want to and you have to work at it. So, negative thoughts lead to stress. Negative thoughts lead to stress and overeating, resulting in regret and the guilt and the beating up on self and then throwing in the towel and say, why bother? So, aggressive communication towards self, please, 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 please work on it because you engage in that, now you're your own worst enemy. Absolutely, for sure. Those exaggerated, unreal things you say to yourself are often really, really irrational. They lead to anxiety, depression, sadness, worthlessness, and giving up. So you have to choose, all right? I want to give you a few examples, and I might wait on this because we're really coming into time here. But I will give you a few brief examples of negative self-talk. One of them is all or nothing, right? Oh my gosh, I blew it at lunch today. I might as well give up and give in for the whole day. It's all in or all out. That is negative self-talk. If you blew it, you say, okay, I blew it, onward and forward. I can do better than that. Or the black and white thinking, same kind of thing. It's all good or it's all bad. These are good foods. These are bad foods. I exercise or I don't. I eat healthy or I don't. Eat healthy most of the time. Every now and then, allow yourself the cookie or the whatever it is. Every now and then. Unless you have a food addiction, and then that's a whole different story. Or jumping to conclusions. You see somebody walking down the street, you know them, so you're going to have words of exchange, kind words. But in your mind, you're thinking, oh my God, they just think I'm so disgusting. Really? How do you know that? So you're jumping to conclusions that you have no idea if they exist, but you're being aggressive towards yourself by assuming somebody else is being negative to you. Not necessary and will not help your weight loss game, right? Blaming. It's your fault I ate that pizza. If you wouldn't have yelled at me, I would have been mad and then I wouldn't have eaten the pizza. Sorry, that's not how it works. You can yell at me. Well, you shouldn't yell at me, but if you do, it's not your fault if I eat pizza because I have 1,000 options. I can say I would appreciate if you didn't yell at me. I could say, if you're going to yell at me, I'm going to walk away and we can continue this conversation later. If you cannot yell at me, you can say, I'm going to go eat a whole pizza, but I can't blame it on that person. I am responsible for the effort I put into whatever I do. Nobody else is responsible for my behavior. End of story. Nobody else is responsible for anything you eat at this point in time, right? So here we go. How to be assertive and not aggressive. Here's an example. You might say to somebody if they bring, unhealthy foods into the house that trigger, you know what? Here's the other person saying to you, I don't really care if you're upset. See, maybe they're feeling upset that they brought them and now they know they hurt you. And so they're feeling insecure and they're going to take it out on you because they have aggressive communication. I don't care if you're upset about the fact that I bring sweets into the house. I can leave them on the counter if I want to. This is my house. Well, that's not nice, right? That's aggressive. The tone of voice, the coming at you, the staring at you, the pointing, the whole thing, aggressive. Or if you had brought something to their attention, an assertive thing to say would be, I hadn't thought about how this might affect you. And I'm sorry, and I would like to hear more about it so I can better understand. Right? Very different. But when we're aggressive, our own guilt or, whatever gets in the way, and we come across like, ah, rather than just saying, you know what, I messed up here. That was inconsiderate of me. Let me hear how that affects you. Right? So you want to change your communication from aggressive to assertive. How can you do that? Well, you've got to know what pushes your buttons. You got to know what makes you mad or scared or insecure, because when you react aggressively, something's pushed a button inside of you. So if you can know your triggers, if somebody accuses me of something that I didn't do, I'm aggressive. That's not for me. That's for my husband, actually. Or if somebody um, changes the meaning of what I say or changes the words that I use, ooh, that really, for me, that's a huge trigger. And I'm going to come across aggressively. But I have to learn, okay, that just pushed that button. They didn't hear what I said and they're rephrasing it and they've got it wrong. So I know that's a button for me. And instead of coming across aggressively, I can say, I'm not feeling heard in this situation. Would you mind if I tried to explain it to you again? So I know that you understand where I'm coming from, that sort of thing. All right. And watch out when you know your triggers, manage them. Don't email somebody when you're all ticked off. Don't make social media posts when you're in not a good spot, and be aware of your body language. If you're glaring at somebody, if you're giving them the evil eye, right? If your posture is really threatening, and listen. It always helps to listen before you speak, right? And you might say to other people, if I'm sitting back here thinking they're thinking this about me, I can always ask, what are your thoughts? What is it you're thinking about right now? Doesn't mean they'll tell me, but whatever. I'm responsible for my part, right? All right. Take home messages. Aggressive communication is real harmful to relationships. After a time, people are going to be like, I'm not doing this. I am not your punching bag. Learn a new way or I'm out of here, which is essentially what happened in my marriage. And I didn't want to lose my marriage. So my husband had to kind of step up to the plate a little bit and be a little more assertive. I had to back off the plate a little bit and be less aggressive. And we both had to learn to say, this is how I think. This is what I feel. These are my thoughts on that. And we've worked really hard, and we still get into it sometimes if our buttons are pushed. Always come back and work through it. Always. And say, this was my part. Instead of saying, well, you did this and you did that. So aggression is detrimental to relationships. Aggressive communication is absolutely detrimental to yourself and your weight loss goals, and can lead to regain. So here's your invitations. And I will always, every single time, invite people to listen to the podcast or join Berry Aftercare so they can hear all of the videos both every week. And I'd like you to I'm inviting you to consider how being an aggressive communicator, if it's not to other people, but it's in your head in terms of how you communicate with yourself, think about how that's affecting your journey and think about what it might be like if you let go of that negative self-talk. And remember, always and forever, this is your health. This is your responsibility this day and every day. So make wise choices, and I will see you later in the week. Take care, folks.